Shouldn't be. We should be on the land.
It looks a little jittery coming into here, so maybe it's just, I don't know.
Shaking the cable?
I don't know. It's just like robotic a little bit. So, all right, we are live.
Here we go.
Everyone, hey guys, we're back this week. I get to drive the ship this week, just to learn everything that's going on over on the control side of life here, and we're going to be live today with Andrew Cooperider,
Running for the treasurer, right?
running for treasurer. Yes,
That's right.
So you're going to be the keeper of the money.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show.
All right, absolutely.
We appreciate you coming in and to making the trip over and working with us.
Sure.
And tell us, I know you have to make a nice drive here. So what's where are you coming from? Lexington? Is that where you come from?
Lexington. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Lexington. Yeah.
So why don't you,
let me just say something about that. Somebody's willing to drive to Meade County, come all the way down here just to introduce yourself. We actually ask for everybody to come out that's running just to do a tidbit on this, just to introduce themselves. So I think it goes a long way to say what you're willing to do for running for this office to make your trip all the way
yeah,
up
I
to Meade
agree.
County.
It's,
So
I mean, it's Meade County is not the most centrally located place, but it's not too bad to get here, I don't think.
Well, every vote counts, and everybody deserves attention while you're running through
yeah,
a race, right?
Yeah.
Everybody deserves to at least hear from you once.
absolutely.
But you've been down here a couple times, so I really
Yeah.
appreciate that
I
you
think
come
this
down.
is my third time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think you've been to you were at the Christmas dinner.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
spoke at the GOP meeting a
Yep,
few months
yeah,
ago.
that's right. And then now you're not
live.
you're live here with us right now.
Yeah.
but you're not going to be at the Lincoln Day. You're not going to be able to make that.
Somebody's representing me there.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. I think there's a
hard to
few
be in-
dinners going on
there's
that day.
I think at least two. I know us and Wayne County for sure, and there's probably another 2 or 3.
If
out
you
there
guys
that
get lucky, you may draw my wife to be the one to represent.
Oh, that'd
me.
be awesome.
Oh, all right.
She's got a reputation
Is
on
she
the
like
circuit.
Rand Paul's wife? I mean,
Yeah,
she gets
yeah.
up there and
she
steals
gets
the
up there.
stage.
She's got a reputation on the market. Somebody from RPK was talking to me today, and they go, "Man, your wife's getting a reputation for the
Yeah.
kind of speech she gives."
All
at
right,
She,
nice.
Lincoln Day
she's the one I
dinners.
work with most of the time
Yeah.
when setting these things up. And things, so, yeah.
Me as well.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Why are you putting yourself out there for treasure?
Yeah, so I think first I got to give a little bit about my background. So
Sure.
I didn't set out in life to be a politician.
Yeah.
I know we hear that, but I literally didn't. So my wife and I founded our first company, I think like 7 years ago, commercial cleaning company, with just $3,000. And today we employ dozens of Kentuckians at that business.
That's awesome.
It's certainly a thriving business. And then I started a few other businesses along the way. I had 2 restaurants and a tech company, software design and engineering. And
I didn't
things
know
like
about that.
Yeah. In fact, you can go to freedomfight.us. That's one of our websites. It's
all right.
activism for conservatives website. Does
Okay.
petitions and crowd fundraising and
Nice.
events and all kinds of things.
You don't. Your software company doesn't produce anything for dog grooming, do they?
No, they don't.
on.
No, they don't.
No, I'm just
They don't.
kidding.
I have been wanting to
I'm
get into
asking.
that
I'm a business owner too. So you're amongst good company because we're all business owners in this
Yeah,
group. So
good.
Rough the Possum
dog
and
grooming salon and services.
yeah,
There you go.
and we, my wife and I own Burnett Embroidery, which is an embroidery and screen printing services.
Oh,
and things
okay.
like that. So,
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. Well, I've always thought mobile dog grooming, like if I could get into a business right now, that might be it. Because I have a dog,
If
and
I-
whenever I call, it's like a 6-week waiting
If I
period.
felt like my wife would be safe actually going somewhere in
Yeah.
a vehicle remotely to somebody's house and that it wouldn't be some,
Weirdo.
yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would, but we do pretty well at a fixed location
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
dog grooming.
Location.
It is.
People love their dogs.
Yeah.
You know,
They
I've got
do.
a.
But they also love a good dog groomer, meaning that you produce a quality service, not a quantity service.
Well, and so you probably know what I'm going through. I've got a half German Shepherd, half Husky. Her
Oh,
name's,
yeah.
Tuna.
Shedding,
yeah, she's going
de-shedding.
through that.
Don't ever shave a dog. If you have a dog that has long hair, it is not meant for them to be shaved. They actually stay cooler if you just brush them and leave their long hair. That coat is their air conditioning.
It's just so much fur. I don't shave.
No, I know.
I brush a lot outside. It's
So
just so
it's funny
much
you
fur.
say that, and not to get totally off course, but For dog owners that have that, there is a how-to. You take 4 air filters, square by square, the same size as a box fan, and you set it on the floor and you tape it all together so that the box fan is sucking all the air through the filters and up through the box fan, and it actually takes out the dog dandruff in your most lived area.
Oh, that's
It is actually. It actually is a very good trick. It sucks in all the flying. Something. It sucks in all the flying fur and all that other stuff, and it keeps it.
That's interesting.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that. It's the first time I've heard that, and
I've never heard that.
You know,
before.
we should have a whole. We just need to have a show all on
how to
tidbits and tricks.
Yeah.
About dogs.
That right there was the lake effect. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
So continue. Tell us about
absolutely.
Tell us about your life here.
So we start out in life, and we had those companies rolling, and COVID hits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the commercial cleaning company, we went from doing $90,000 a month in revenue to 5.
Wow.
I mean, when everything shut down, there's nothing to clean.
That's right.
And I think this is where people don't realize how damaging the 2 weeks to flatten the curve lie was.
Yeah.
Because when you're a business owner, as you guys are, you're making those kinds of decisions based upon the information, and so you're making decisions thinking we'll be reopening in a month.
Safe,
yeah, and not this will go on for a year or 2 or 3, and so we're going through it. I had to close down one of my restaurants, so I only had the one, and then when the second lockdowns came. In November, I had my coffee shop brewed, and I just looked at the books and I said, if we shut down, if we close, we're not going to make it. So I stayed open. And then about 3 days in, the health department came in and demanded I shut down, I close, and threatened me with arrest if I served another cup of coffee.
Come on in.
Yeah, and so
bring it.
I said that's exactly what I said.
That. Yeah,
I said I want you to prove to me that we're so far lost that you're going to arrest me. And keep in mind too, I'm in Lexington. You can go a few miles down the road at this time and get a lap dance. You could go work the slot machine. You could go get an abortion. You could go do all these things, but I couldn't serve coffee.
You couldn't serve coffee.
You could go to Walmart.
They didn't want us to go to the church.
You could go to Walmart, box stores.
I could go to the mall, buy a coffee at that Starbucks, and then sit down in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
But you couldn't go to Starbucks.
But you couldn't go to my coffee shop and sit down inside it.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. So, that was the rules, made no sense. And so we said, no, we're staying open. And they literally went outside to call the police. And I tell you what, if you need a story of why you backed the blue, this is why. The Lexington Police Department, upon that call, said, no, we're not going to arrest him for doing that. That sounds like a civil matter.
You're going to need to, see ya.
You're going to need an order. So they walked away and took me to court, and we kind of fought that out. We sort of kind of won. So the judge ended up ordering that we couldn't cook or prepare food, but we could still have maximum occupancy of 25 people coming in. They could even eat and drink inside too. We just couldn't make it because of how the executive order was wrote. That's what the judge wrote up. So we stopped cooking and preparing food, but then the food truck outside started cooking and preparing coffee and food.
Oh.
And then
they would get it and bring it inside.
Yeah, and then they could get it and bring it inside.
So you found a loophole.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
And that upsetted some of the people there, but they just had to kind of deal with that. So, that kind of kicked me off of where I found myself on this front line of a battle over the very foundation, over the future. Right. And on that day, I vowed that I would fight and sacrifice anything I needed to in order to peel back this overreaching government, in order to return to the foundations we were founded on.
So why treasure?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm like, lead me to treasure.
Okay.
Are you trying to get some money back out of this deal or what?
No.
That's the first thing I'm thinking. Lead me out of here.
So the first thing we understand about treasure is its role is to ensure that all money is spent legally and constitutionally correct. It is the only role in the entire state government that is a preventative role. So before the overreach even happens.
Oh, I already got how this is going. You want to go back and charge the health department for using inappropriated funds or appropriated funds incorrectly and get some money back out of and give them heck.
I don't think I could go back, but in the future, though, kind of looking at some of those things and saying, look, what can we do? We've got the police shutting down people for going to church. What can the treasurer do? Because the government can't operate without money.
Right.
What can the treasurer do to stop doing? I'll give you an example of something going on right now, okay?
All right.
So the state legislature passed in their last 2 budget bills, that Beshear could not expend more than $5,000 in total enforcing COVID mandates. Now, I am still in court over my beer license. Is still in court. He's still spending money trying to take away my beer license from that.
You know they spent more than $5,000.
Oh, we know they did. We know they did. They aren't arguing that they spent more than $5,000. They're just saying they should still get to enforce.
So you're going for office to give it to the man.
I guess, if you want to say that.
I'm just kidding. No, but
you have to forgive Steve a little bit because he's not used to being in that chair.
No.
He's,
okay.
he's free and open today.
Free and open. But I'm just kidding. But seriously, when there's no accountability, that's what we get so frustrated about. I mean, we'll turn on the news today. I mean, we could talk about Ireland all day.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? Oh, I can't even think of the movie, but it's like, what would our future be like if we're ran by dumb people? You know what I mean? Idiocracy. Yes, that's the movie.
That's the movie.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
I know, but that's what I mean. That's what we have going on, and part of it is we've got so many. You call them politicians. Definitionally, everybody's running.
Anybody that runs is a politician.
Yeah,
but
you will be a politician.
Yeah, but
a measured politician. I'm feeling.
Sure. But I think we need more than experienced politicians. We need competent people.
Yeah.
That aren't worried about what's the next office I'm going to run for.
Yeah, I always thought, where are the statesmen?
Yes.
Right? Where are the statesmen in politics anymore? Everybody wants a job.
Right.
They want a job.
Well, they want to feel special. They want to be able to judge their local talent show. They want to be clapped for.
And so that's where it became more of a narcissistic. You have to. They have a certain level of narcissism in them that they need to do that. And I'm not saying they're all narcissists like through and through, but I think when you run, there's probably a little bit of a level of that where you're saying, "Hey, I can do a better job." But then there's those that are like, "Man, I just need the attention on me all the time."
That's shiny object syndrome. I think there are people that come in, no offense to you.
Go ahead.
There are people that will come into the game just like you have intent and purpose and meaning. I'm going to make this meaningful. And I believe you. I believe a lot of our politicians. But then there are those that we vote for, we believe in. I believe in you. You get there, and then guess what? They get shiny object syndrome.
And I think that's where, one unique thing about me is I didn't start to run because, I'm just called to make a I started to run because I've been a victim of our state government over me.
Absolutely.
I have had to look people in the eye and fire them. I've had to look at people and say, you can't co-sign for your college student's apartment anymore because you don't have a job because of what the government's done. I mean, that's the kind of thing where somebody who's had that kind of interaction, it's kind of one of those things where you hope that electing somebody like me doesn't get shiny object syndrome. Because we know there's repercussions. That's the thing. I mean, look at Beshear during the pandemic. He never once called in a single person to talk about the overdose issues going on. He never once asked a single person about what were the ramifications for his policies. They bury their heads in the sand and they hide from the consequences.
They thought no one would ever ask. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, that throughout this whole thing, throughout the whole COVID, they thought, they've been in power for so long, and
nobody's going to question.
Nobody's going to question us. We're the government, right? Well, no, I mean, but people have awakened. I don't want to say awoken. I don't want to say it's woke, but they've awakened to understand that
the woke are
elections
waking.
have consequences. They realize, especially here in Kentucky. I mean, out of COVID, first you had when 2016 when President Trump ran, and then 2020, and then you had COVID through all of that, and you're looking at it going. The people are just realizing that, hey, I didn't elect you to come, bear over me. I elected you to go represent me. And people in politics today have forgotten to represent.
And I think, too, people have realized that politicians they're not the smartest amongst us. They're just like us.
Yeah, they're just,
they are just
somebody who wants to take a stand.
Yeah, I mean, they're just as silly sometimes and dumb. And I think that's where I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers. I just think we need to start electing people that look at you and say, I can't solve all your problems in the government.
That's right.
It's just not my role. Nor
Right.
should it be. And look at people and say, that really sucks that that's happened to you. But that doesn't mean we need to create a new law, a new tax. We don't got to fund a special program. It's maybe just not government. Maybe that's the community's role. Maybe that's the church's role. Maybe that's a parent's role.
Well, we've had that conversation numerous times because we agree. Just because something's broke doesn't mean it's the government's responsibility to fix it. Where's the community? And government overreach. I mean, I think that's a strong stance of any Republican. But I would also say that Republican or Democrat, whomever get elected, that person should represent the entire sum of all, right? But that doesn't happen.
Well,
Shiny object syndrome. Because
somewhat, but I'm going to disagree with you a little bit.
Go right ahead. We're supposed to.
And this is my disagreement. We live in a republic, a constitutional republic.
That's right.
So just because 99% of the people want to take somebody's stuff doesn't mean that I should allow it if it's unconstitutional.
Well, that's
And so that's where there is times where I feel like as an elected person, even if something's popular, that doesn't mean that it's right.
No, I agree with that
And
statement.
so sometimes you got to step in and say, guys, this isn't right. This is, universal health care is popular, but that doesn't mean it's a good policy.
No, I agree. That's maybe I misspoke, but I agree with you. We are a republic. We already have laws on the book. We don't need to create exceptions to laws.
Yeah.
I think if I misspoke, but
I didn't mean to misrepresent.
no, my point is that people run for office. They get in office, and they think that they're only going to represent their own group.
Yeah.
You got to represent everybody. So you're running for a Republican seat as the county or treasurer.
Yep.
And when you get in there, it's doing the job. You kind of take off the Republican Democrat hat, and it's what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong.
Right. And you've got to be able to move, especially in a government where, the majority of people are going to be Republican in elected positions. We hope Bashir loses and we end up with a Republican governor. And that's where if you're playing too much party politics,
Right.
that's where fraud, abuse, because it doesn't matter D or R, everybody can be corrupted. Everybody can do the wrong
That's
thing.
right. That's right.
And we got to be on top of that. And at the same time, we've got to do the important work that we have to do.
But that's
All right,
also why we fight, at least as Republicans, we fight against absolute power.
Right.
Because
We fight against our own Republicans.
that's right.
That's right.
To hold them
We
accountable.
hope. Andrew, wish you luck. If you win, we're going to hold you accountable.
That's right.
We're going to expect you to not just go in and go to work every day, but we're expect you to improve the office. We're going to
Right.
expect you to do some of these things. Try to do these things. We get it. You may not be able to do everything because you have to work with legislature and things like
Yeah,
that to get
sure.
these things done. But those are some
That's
of the
the
things.
politicking.
Yeah, that's where
that's
politics comes into it, and you have to. You unfortunately you do have to go in and say, hey, these are the things I think will
Right.
make this better, justify it, and have a plan on how to get there. So can I ask you this? What are a couple of the things? What are a couple of the things that you think that you can bring to the treasurer's office, or what would you like to change about the treasurer's office?
So the number one thing I want to do and really focus on is the treasurer has that unique nuts and bolts access to the budget. There's a lot of ways our government is spending money on things that just shouldn't. And what I'd love to see is the treasurer's office putting together what I'm calling the waste report. Now, I've already done one for the last year, just an example of about 15 or 16 wasteful or out of control spending items that I've seen.
I'd like to hear about those.
That's at Andrew, the number 4ky.com/waste, and I'll tell you about a few of them.
Okay.
If you want me to tell you.
I do.
about it. Okay.
Yeah. You got all the time in the world.
There
Hold
we
on.
go.
We don't stop for 45 more minutes. Keep going.
So to give you some examples of some spending I've identified. So in Louisville, there is a choir called Voices of Kentuckiana. This is an LGBTQ choir whose stated purpose is to inform and create acceptance for the LGBTQ lifestyle through song. And every year, our state gives them thousands of dollars to operate. They're given a $5,000-$6,000 grant every year through the Kentucky Council on the Arts, which is a state-funded program. And, that's money being wasted or spent on this kind of social engineering stuff I disagree with. Another example where I see some waste going on would be in this kind of this diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative type stuff that we see going on. For an example, over the last year, our state government spent $1.5 million to track racism and bigotry in healthcare. And the result of that has been now every healthcare worker in the state, when they go for their new certifications, they have to sit through a malice struggle session implicit bias training that tells them that they're all racist and minorities are dying at a higher rate than white people are because they're all racist and they're killing minorities. That's what the training tells them. And our state is funding that to the tune of millions of dollars.
Wow. I'm going to have why do they get PTSD from this or any type of benefits as a result of having to go through that course?
No, well, and that's the thing is that when you're told you're constantly racist, well, that means that you never solve the problem. It's like it's like they keep making money off this stuff.
You got to go watch the Oprah Winfrey 1992 show of the teacher from the 50s that did the brown eyes versus the blue eyes. And it's funny that you talk about this because I just had this incident this week.
I remember talking about that in school in the 1980s.
Oprah had all the blue-eyed people come to her show, wear a collar. This lady's now like in her 60s, and she taught this in the third grade. It actually was a third grade class she taught it to. I wish I could think of her name, but anyway, it slips me. But anyway, she comes back in 1992 and does this show with Oprah Winfrey, and she's out front being rude to all the blue-eyed people, and all the brown-eyed people are getting treated with breakfast and coming through the door. You got to imagine going to the Oprah Winfrey show in 1992, and all of the white people with blue eyes are wearing a green collar and just singled out, sweating through the whole process to even get on the show. Then they get on the show, they're sitting on the floor, they're not sitting in a nice chair. All the brown-eyed people are sitting over on the other side. They got a nice chair. They're sitting in air conditioning. They're bringing them tea and stuff before the show starts. You can imagine the way they're feeling. By the time this lady gets up on stage, you were mean, lady, and all this stuff is happening. And Oprah just exposes. And this lady did this. She did this with the kids in her class, which were predominantly white in the 50s, right? And when she did this as a result of the killing of Martin Luther King, and this went viral. It's been viral for years. You just have to go find it. But then when Oprah Winfrey did it in 92, I thought it was absolutely brilliant because it speaks to racism. And the problem is that we are continuously divided for no reason at all. We don't need to separate. We are a melting pot.
That's right.
We're supposed to mesh.
Well, and I think too as well, some of these policies, to give you an example, and this kind of goes in this critical race theory policies that we see, like in Fayette County. Yeah. They discovered that minority children were being punished at a higher rate for the late policy than white children were. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, it wasn't that. You come in the door and they look at your skin color and they say, well, you're being punished. You're not. You're white. Go ahead. That wasn't what was happening. So, but they just assumed that, well, this must be because of racism. But when you boil it down like that, you're saying a few things. One, we're ignoring all the kids who aren't a minority that are also having issues showing up. But two, that doesn't solve the issue. Because what I would gather a guess to say is the majority of the kids having issues showing up to school on time probably have a single parent. And that parent's probably working.
That's exactly what I was thinking as well.
The segregation and splitting. I mean, this has gone on for a long time.
Well, it is. But
where you're placed, the opportunities are not available. Let's focus on that problem.
Right.
What do we need to
you
to
hear
help
these
those
statistics all the time, though. That there's one of the biggest issues in black families is that in the 1960s, in 1961, 62, it was like two-father homes were like in the 78, 79%, 80% range.
Well, their middle class was growing faster than
they
were
in
in
the
the 60s.
I saw a deed for sale in the Rough River Lake area that they put the deed up on a Facebook marketplace. They were going to sell this piece of property, and then in the deed, it restricted anyone from color from buying that land. These are old laws, but that's what we did in our state.
Well, yeah, we're not saying that there weren't racist policies and things allowed, but that wasn't from like 1990.
That wasn't me and you. No. This is like stuff
that was the 1940s, 50s, maybe even further back than that. I mean, but we're not the only we're not the only state like that. I mean,
No,
you can go to every
don't
small community.
disagree.
You can go to every small community throughout, Ohio and Indiana, even up into Pennsylvania. You'll find these laws that disgust me. I am totally disgusted by them.
But
we've ended those things, and now we're looking at how do but those things are gone, but there's still a problem where and I don't know how we got off on race relations today,
but he's saying that we're spending money in these areas to justify why we should do something different that doesn't still solve the problem.
Right. Well, and I think also as well, it does the opposite of not solving the problem.
It splits us.
Not only that, but I mean, what's it say to a minority child when you turn to them and say you're held to a lower standard than a white child? It tells them that they can't aspire to be what
it has the opposite
opportunity.
effect.
Yeah, it just what are
You're
you telling
gonna get a
to
trophy.
these kids?
Well,
let me say something, because along those lines, one of my favorite movies of all time is Remember the Titans, and you remember?
Oh yeah,
you
that was a great
remember
movie.
Denzel Washington's character was like, you can't coddle these kids. You have to, if you want to protect them, you protect them by giving them the tools to survive in life. And I was like, man, there's nothing more truer than that. When you think about it, that's I praise God that I had a father in my life that taught me those things, a father and a mother that taught me those things growing up. And if you look back, and you don't even know that you learned those things. It was just part of the things that were engraved in you.
And I think, so I go back to when I was a young man, and I would listen to, and this really set my life on the path it is, I'd listen to Zig Ziglar, who passed away a little bit ago.
Cost versus price versus cost. My favorite part of Zig. Yeah, go ahead.
I would always listen to How to Stay Motivated, and I listened to it probably 20 times. And how he always began off that talk was by asking everybody a question. He said, okay, everybody raise your hand if you believe there is something you can do today that would make your life better. Whether that's eat healthier, you can work out, you can whatever.
Hold on. Are you ready for this impression? Go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
And then he would ask, and everybody would raise their hand like, yeah, there's things I could do to make my life better in the next 2 weeks. Okay. And he said, now raise your hand if you believe there's things you could do today or over the next 2 weeks that would significantly make your life worse. And everyone's like, yeah, I mean, I could go yell at my wife. I could go do all these things. Yeah, I can make my life worse.
Right.
And he said, so what you just said is your future can be better or worse, and the choice is yours.
That's right.
And when we sit there and say, you have no ability to make your life better because you're a victim, we're taking away the ability for you to say, I can make my life better or worse, which is the worst kind of subjugation possible.
It is.
You're just a victim of your circumstance. And that's what we're forwarding by continuing, I think, this lie that says, well, yeah, even if something, and the DEI stuff covers more than just racism, or, well, race issues. It covers also the whole gender theory stuff and everything else. But I think it just really, we're really pushing forward this idea that somehow we have to treat people differently.
So, all right, so that's being wasted. What else is being wasted? On a couple of your notes. We'll go into the website later and do a callback. But give me something bigger that really drags you through the scales that came out of all of that.
Okay. I'm going to tell you.
Slap a number on it. I mean, really make us hit the floor, go like.
Okay. So, are you guys aware, and I know you are, and I can go into the detail of it, but how the state of Kentucky ended up investing over $500 million into electric vehicles?
No. Tell me.
So
500 million.
500 million. Right.
Okay.
So you're aware of
zeros and a. That's that's
$500 million. Yeah.
$500 million. Oh, that's 9.
Yeah.
6,
Okay. So
8,
here's what
zeros.
happened.
8 zeros and a 5. Good Lord.
Here's what happened. Okay. Now I know you guys are aware of the electric vehicle battery plant Ford's building.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay. Aware of it. Okay. So what happened in 2021 during a special session? There was a bill brought forward to say that we're going to invest $410 million to a private company. Well, actually, it's a little bit more to companies investing a certain amount because there was some carryover. But anyways, $410 million to a private company that is going to invest at least $2 billion to build they didn't know what.
They didn't know what. What?
The legislators, other than 4 or 5 that had signed the NDA, were unaware of the company, the project, what they were building, and what the details were outside of some company would be investing $2 billion.
That's like, okay,
when
I'm a
was this?
program manager, project manager. 2 things, strike 2, scope, time, and money.
Right.
You don't have an idea of either 2 of those, or even 3 possibly.
Yeah.
And you're approving this?
And what I'm talking about, and I hesitate sometimes, is because it's kind of controversial, because almost every Republican other than 8 voted for this. In the entire Senate and House. Out of 138 members, I believe only 8 didn't vote yes on this.
Well, we never said that they shouldn't be held accountable. So,
well, I mean, that's why I'm asking the question. When was this?
This was in 2021 during the special session. And they called in special session in fall to deal with the COVID pandemic, to deal with some other things. And so what happened is that Beshear and his finance secretary had been in negotiations with Ford over this plant. They read in the leadership of the Senate and the House, and they signed NDAs. Then the leadership went to the whole rest of the body and said, you need to vote yes for this bill. We were not, they were unaware of who it was, what they were building. They had no details.
okay, I got it. So they're trying to protect the company because they don't want to. You can't go profit share off of that. You don't want to go invest in Ford all of a sudden because you voted for yes for something. But I get why that's a yes. I could argue against that because you don't want. I would actually say, I'd argue that that's actually a good policy in this situation, because then if you saw all of our Republicans instantly millionaires because they went and invested in Ford because this got approved, then it would look even worse, controversial.
Maybe, but at the same time, I think that if we're going to spend $410 million on a project, the citizens should get to voice their opinion on that project.
Okay,
I mean,
it's their money.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that, but let me just play it this way. I send a representative to the state to represent me, and I'm expecting her to speak on my behalf, right? Sure. Your representative is speaking on your behalf. So that's where my voice is voiced.
But if they don't know who they're giving money to.
Well, I mean, in this case, the money doesn't necessarily just, a check's not written that day. It's written, eventually it has to come out, and we have to then write a check, right? So the treasurer will write a check, or what have you, however the money's distributed.
I would assume that there was more disclosure than that. Like there's going to be this many jobs that come from that. There would have had to been all that and I only say this because they're moving us into an income tax free state for income, right?
That's the idea.
And based on the information we have from a live podcast, was that if we get to 1 million people in population,
another million
than where we were at the time,
5.4
and
million.
That's only going to happen if we have jobs and we have industry and we have growth, right? But if we don't create growth opportunities, we're never going to get to that, and blah blah blah. And the only reason I brought that up is because I'm a retired military guy, and I could have chose a lot of states to go to.
So there's some premises there that were just talked about that I always have questions about.
Sure.
So one of those is, so let's rewind, okay? If unemployment is low and you have enough money to offer basic services, why does the government care whether or not we grow? Why is it that we believe government has a role in growing our population or has a role in any of that?
I mean, the way it's put to us was the goal is to be able to maintain our current obligations, right? Things that they've already promised, that things they've already said we're going to write checks for. And today we're pulling 4.5%. from our paychecks.
Approved to
It's
drop
going to
to
be,
4.
I think it's going to drop to 4 in January.
Right.
And they want to get that to 0. Well, the only way to do that is to and what we were told was that they're not going to raise the sales tax. They're not going to. I know it seems a little counterintuitive that you can even do that, right?
That's not 100% accurate. It's a little. This is where they're not going to raise sales tax, but they added categories they're taxing on.
Well, yeah.
Which means
that's where I was going. I was going to say they're expanding the sales tax base, which is there's a lot of places where a lot of things.
Which is a tax increase.
It's a tax increase.
You are now as a citizen paying more.
Yeah, but I don't mind that for a couple of social reasons. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with moving out of the income tax. Let me be very clear.
Yeah.
I believe income tax is immoral. I think it is wrong that the government gets its cut before you get to put food on your table.
That's right.
I believe in getting rid of it. But I think at the same time, that bill that lowers our income tax to 0 requires our general fund to grow from $13 billion to $21.5 billion in order to get to 0%. That's a 70% increase in spending.
It is. Well, it's not.
That's not replacing revenue. That is 70% increase in government.
Well, I mean, I know this, but let's talk about this. So here's the thing, right? Let's get back to the tax, right? The income tax, or I'm sorry, the sales tax. So the sales tax is not going to. The sales tax rate is not going to increase. That was the conversation that we had. Are we going to have to go to 8%? Sales tax, right? And the answer we were given was no. The idea here is to expand that tax base, which, like you said, it does raise revenue. It raises the tax on things. However, when you figure up the amount of money that you spend in a year, right, you're giving 4.5% or 4% on everything.
So I guess, though, I return to my original challenge of why is it that our state government needs more money? We have obligations we owe to the citizens, right?
Yeah.
How does adding more citizens lower that obligation? It only grows in conjunction with our population.
No, it grows through the growth is considered really the million people number over time is considered to be the number that would be it would be about people living and spending within the the Commonwealth. It would be people who have opened new businesses and things like that. That's expanded the market and the.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I don't understand how
passing hands. Well, I mean,
I don't understand how we're solving our problem, though. Here's my point. We had $500 million to give to a private company. I don't think the state. Yes, we wrote a $250 million.
Yeah, but did we have it?
Yeah, we're a balanced budget state. We don't borrow money.
Yeah, so it's but we didn't. But we don't pay all of our. We don't pay all of our obligations for
our
retirements and pensions.
So let's return to that for a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. This is what drives me crazy. $410 million given to Ford. But let's pretend they say it'll create between 5,000 to 7,000 jobs. Let's say it creates 10,000 jobs. Now, our state's budget is $41 billion, including pass-throughs. So that's about $10,000 a citizen. So let's pretend, now that's pass-throughs, so half of our budget is things like Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps that we just administer.
Right.
So really only $21 billion.
Those are federal dollars that pass through the Commonwealth.
So really that's only $5,000 that the state itself is actually spending per citizen. So let's pretend off every one of these jobs, we will generate $10,000 in revenue a year to the state. So 10,000 jobs, almost double their low-end projection. At $10,000 in revenue a job, it will take us, because it'll take 5 years to build it, and then it'll take us until about 10 years after it's built to get a return and then double our investment. So 15 years to double our investment. If you take that same $410 million and you paid it toward our pension obligation, even at our we have the lowest projected rate of return in our pension at 6%. In the country. We have the lowest projected rate of return. Even at that low...
You need to get a new financial advisor. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know, right? But anyways, even at that low projected rate of return of 6%, we would double our money in 12 years if we gave it to our pension. So we have a pension obligation that we're not paying that would be a better return on our investment if we gave it to it, but instead we give it to a private company because we believe somehow it's government's role to grow beyond the point where we just need enough citizens and revenue to be able to provide basic services.
Well,
So
I mean,
I'm hearing a guy sitting next to me that wants to go and clean this thing up.
yeah.
So
That's what
I
I'm hearing
mean,
too.
so what? So assuming you take the seat, elected,
Okay.
boo boo.
I know, and I've covered a lot of big things. I know.
I
I
know. So
I'm not sure how we
Day
track through all
one.
that, but
But yeah.
it's been interesting so
day
far.
one,
Right.
you're in the office. You're sworn in by the governor or some official, depending on who gets the governor next time, right?
Well, it's the Supreme Court justice that
No.
swears people.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know.
You mean sworn in along with? That's what.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get there, day one. You're walking in the office.
Right.
You fire everybody, or what? I mean, what are you going to do? What's it?
Well, I'm
what
a
are you
business
thinking?
owner.
No, I know. Are you visualizing that day? Walk me through what you've dreamt about walking into this. You got to have a big office there. Have you been there before?
Yeah. I mean, once or twice.
Is
but
is it a big office, fancy office?
I mean, it's Allison's.
Yeah, it's. I know it's
Allison's
Allison's
balls
over. I
right
know.
now, so.
it's no, not really.
No, she's been doing a pretty decent job.
Yeah, I mean, but I think part of it is that so day one, walking in. So first, understand the office. About 25 employees are. Oh shoot, what's the word when they're not a political appointee?
Nonpartisan.
Well,
No,
they're,
not that word. There's a special name for them. Oh, at the federal level, they're it's a schedule name.
Oh, they're a GS schedule or something like that, or
Yeah, but
a
the state
government
level-
employee.
Yeah, state level. Yeah, I don't know what that's called.
There's a term, and I'm
It's
going to
just like the-
remember. it in
yeah.
a
But
bit,
they're state employees.
They're 25 or so employees that they're not political appointees. They've worked there for years.
That's right.
That
Mhm.
you just
Yeah.
You're not going to mess with them, obviously, coming in.
Unless they just call
and
you
then
a
there's
bad word or something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah.
No, I'm just
See,
kidding.
I'm just
merit.
kidding.
They're
Merit.
merit employees.
That's it.
There you
Merit
go.
employees. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so then there's about 10 employees that are political appointee employees.
Yeah.
So obviously, leading up to that, you get your cabinet together and everything else. But this is this is what we're facing going into the office. It's a budget year. And so, as I talked about, I want to do this waste report where we're digging into and finding all these places where we're just wasting, spending, and spending money on things government shouldn't be.
Right.
And so, I gave you the example of the 1.5 million on the dashboard to track bigotry and racism. That's a Cabinet for Health and Family Services initiative. And so when Cabinet for Health and Family Services, we put this report together, they then go in front of the legislature and they say, we need another $20 million in our budget or people will die. This is what they say. Instead of the legislature saying, here's 20 million, they can look at the report from the treasurer's office and say, well, not only do you not need 20 million, it appears we've given you so much that you're able to waste money on things like these social initiatives and social engineering ideas. And in fact, we're actually going to cut your budget by the amount that you wasted.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see happen. And that's how
all
we
right, I
start to
like
get
it.
government to police itself.
So, okay, I like it. So, what you're telling the American people of Kentucky, right here, Kentuckians, is that you're going to clean house. You're going to drain the swamp.
Well,
In a sense.
In a sense, yeah. The
Or
idea
at least
is
you're going to
just-
give them the tools to help drain the swamp.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's the number one thing. I got to give the legislature needs the tools. They're a part-time legislature.
That's right.
They don't have the eyes on the budget like
Now
that.
they did try to pass a law that give them a little extra time and they could hold it if they needed to come back, but nobody liked that idea. But
Well, and I think it's difficult part-time legislature, but also too you got to understand how they budget. They just give like pockets of money to different departments, and it's up to them that administration to figure out how to spend
Well, I mean,
it.
that's they're the legislature.
Yeah, but when they know
own the
they're
purse
blowing
strings,
it.
but the executive is supposed to execute on
That's right.
on the laws and the
Right.
and the programs.
yeah,
that
but
are out
I'm
there.
sure when the legislature knows they're blowing it on riffraff and
and that's part of it too, where
Yeah.
where they can come in and say, where if you're a department head and you know, if we
Yeah.
spend money on this and Treasurer Cooperider catches it,
Yeah.
Man, I bet
We
you
might be
Nancy would have
facing
a
a
field
cut.
day with this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, so all right, you described the day. So you just said that you'd probably pick your cabinet. So have you kind of got those cronies lined up, or I mean, how are you thinking that's going to lay out for you?
yeah,
You're
I
killing me
guess.
with the crony talk.
I guess. I mean,
I
here's
mean,
the
in
thing.
a cabinet,
right?
you're picking the cabinet. He gets to pick 10. They're appointed.
Let me there's some ideas of people obviously, but what's
killing you,
really
Mark.
key to me is making sure I want a treasurer's office full of people that don't have political aspirations.
Yep.
But realize the work we need to do.
Yeah.
Because there are things. I am literally right here. I was just talking about something, challenging an entire premise that government's role is to grow its population. Now, I know really why they want to do it. It's because the more people you have, the more money you have, the more power you have. I know that's the real reason why. But
You get another representative seat out of it. House of Representative seat at a next census if we get that
maybe,
many people.
maybe,
I don't know.
yeah.
But
anyway, the point is that that's why these I understand when you have a city or a county or even a state that is saying, hey, we can't provide the basics. We can't provide fire, police, utilities if it's local. We can't provide those things. I understand that. But when you look at what our state is, quote unquote, providing, when you look at some of these, I mean, we're funding a private nonprofit to the tune of $3.5 million a year in order to help diverse individuals start a business. And I got to say, none of us would probably qualify.
Yeah.
But that's $3.5 million a year.
I'm a girl. Do I qualify now?
No, you don't either.
Daggone it.
Still don't.
So let me ask this.
I'm just kidding. I'm not a girl. I'm really a guy. But hey, we just had this conversation about the Canadian weightlifter that showed up
that
for
was
the
last
women's.
week.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
so hilarious. Anyway,
So let me. I'm trying to get my train of thought back on this question. So I need you
you're
driving
still
this bus.
you're still stuck on cronies, aren't you?
No.
go
I'm
ahead.
not past that. I just wanted to. But what I liked about what you're saying is I think that there's room for both sides of that candle. I think
Yeah.
that you're burning the candle at the, hey, what are we spending today? How do we
Right.
cut that so that we don't need 1 million people? We need 500,000 people or we can do it with what we have.
Right. And I think that's part of it where we can sit there and say, you know, so often when we say, hey, spend less to our state, right? When we say let me ask you both this. Do you believe our state government is too big or too small or just right?
I think comparatively, my opinion is we're about right. I mean, we have a part-time
I'm just talking about what the state government does.
I'm talking.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I'm trying to think that through a little bit. Yeah, I'm trying to give you an honest answer. I think it's about right. I mean, it doesn't have too much overreach, unless we had COVID and things like that, which obviously proved us otherwise. And I think that our legislature is working to prevent that from happening again, because we're a part-time legislature, so they're not. That automatically limits our government. To some extent, I think that I don't know about the treasurer's office and the 25 employees doesn't sound like a huge number of employees to run the
Well,
treasurer's
it's 35.
office.
25
35.
are
yeah.
merit and then 10 are political appointees.
Right, but still 35.
Yeah.
This still doesn't sound like it's a bad number of
No.
employees to run a state with 4.3 million people in it.
Sure. So you say about the right size.
I think it's about the right size. There might be some room here or there.
I can't say yes or no. I could say that it's understaffed given our drug problem and our social services for like families for foster and all that other stuff to make sure
Sure.
that people are doing what they're
So
supposed to be
that
doing.
department's understaffed.
I absolutely, because to your point, being able to hold people accountable for taking care of their children and all that other stuff, it's not as strength. I know this personally right now, and, but I'd say that there's other departments that are sitting pretty
overstaffed. There's
overstaffed.
departments that are overstaffed.
Super overstaffed
but
and
just-
overspending monies,
Right.
Because they
But
gotta.
I'm talking about just as far as your involvement in your daily life, right?
Oh,
So
overreach. You're talking about government overreach.
Well, a bigger government, right? So it's overreach, a government that does too much. By does too much, I mean they're overreaching, they're too involved in your life.
So like they're over mandating, they're over
Whether it's to local
regulating.
counties, cities, or individuals.
So I would say, and I'm new to Kentucky in the sense that I wasn't born and raised here my whole life, but I have lived in numerous states. That there's a lot of governmental overreach, even at the local level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Chicago's a great example, but
I thought Indiana was a little bit overboard.
But I would say that after running through this election cycle for a local government election, I would say that it is actually fairly driven, meaning that they're not so overreaching because honestly, your local county government, our KRSs, I'm dealing with the problem right now with animal control. There's
Right.
not a lot of KRSs that are written for animal control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not like our surrounding states. I mean, they're very liberal. But here, they're very conservative. But not all of the animal community is very happy about that because it has limitations and stuff. But I'm not going to get into all that. But the bottom line is the counties have the freedom to take care of their own without the state coming down and telling them how to do it.
So
That's my opinion.
that's your opinion. Okay, so I'm going to tell you.
No, we live in Meade
Yeah,
County.
you live in Meade
You
County.
live in Lexington.
Okay, so we've got a giant problem in our state.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that we have to redistribute wealth between counties way too much. And so the state government has to do it. So this goes into overall taxing.
I mean, are you
problems.
saying that we have to do that, or we're saying that it's
Because it's Commonwealth.
we're doing too much?
I'm saying that we as a state are forced to do it
Okay.
because counties and cities can't make their budgets otherwise. They can't get the roads done that they are in charge of getting done. They can't get the police funded like they need funded in their area. And the reason why for a lot of these places goes into a huge amount of how we tax and what you're allowed to do
Agreed.
taxing wise. So local counties and cities are not allowed to put in place a sales tax. They're only allowed to put in place basically an income tax. They're allowed to put in place, a tax on insurance. They're allowed to put in place property tax, right? The
That was me.
problem these counties run into is that they bedroom counties are really suffering under this plan because when you live there but you don't work there, they're not getting that occupational tax. The county you're working in is. And so they still have to provide to you, though, the services you need most of your life without actually being able to collect tax revenue off you because you're giving it to another county
I agree.
that isn't having to provide you services
agree.
most of your
But
life.
not every. There's not even an occupational tax in every county, is there?
Yeah, there is.
No, you have the opportunity to create.
You're
an
talking about through
occupational-
the state. The state collects it and then.
No. The counties and
The
cities. do it.
cities and counties are responsible. I'll give you an example. I worked in Radcliffe. I lived in Meade County, but part of my income, I had to pay a Radcliffe City income tax to Radcliffe out of part of my income. They're getting probably $1 for every, I don't know what it was per 100, but they were getting some money out of my paycheck as an occupancy tax because of where the business is located that I actually worked out of. If I teleworked from that business because they're located in Radcliffe, I still had to pay it.
I'm just trying to remember on a paycheck or anything.
Every county charges an occupational tax. It's their number one source of revenue.
We don't do that because we prevented ourselves from doing that. We could do that. There's a discussion that
We don't have one.
Brandenburg City.
Not on our.
No, but
not our paycheck.
Brandenburg City could do that.
Yes.
To
The counties, I don't know of a single county that doesn't have occupational tax.
I don't know. I've
It's
never
it's
seen a Meade
every-
County tax.
Every single city, every
I
single
don't pay
county,
an
it's like
occupational
their number
tax out of
one.
Meade County.
You don't?
No,
No?
No, sir.
ours comes from
I play
property
federal
taxes
and state. That's the
and
only
then,
one.
monies we get.
I'm curious what their other tax scheme is because like
we
if
have
you go into
we have an inventory tax.
We do pay inventory tax if
Which
you're a
is
business, but I
one
don't-
of the highest in the state rate
there you
wise.
go.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And-
Okay,
and
I'm
we
like
also
I'd be
pay-
curious to see what they're doing.
we also pay our I think our property taxes are a little bit higher than surrounding
I
areas.
don't think so. I think they're pretty reasonable.
No,
It's like
I don't know.
1%.
Well, the point is that a lot of their, in this case, it's an inventory tax. The point is that these counties really are only able to charge a tax as long as they have employers in the county, not people,
Right.
not people that live there, work there, or live there, eat there, shop there. They're not really able to collect up tax off of them. I guess
Right.
that's my overall
Well,
point.
No, I get your
that
point.
goes
So-
along with our conversation with the mayor about
Annexation.
because cities have been there's an agreement right now so that cities can't annex just uncontrollably annex the surrounding areas because they need more tax base,
Right.
Yeah.
and so when they take that tax they're taking it away from the county,
Right.
right, which is a big problem.
Yeah, and so you run into some issues there, and so my point, I guess the point I was trying to get to, was that, so what happens is there's a quote unquote redistribution of wealth. So we're all taxed at the same rate by the state, but then the state has to redistribute that wealth out.
Right.
So you may not be getting as many dollars and services back in form of grants or what have you from the state as another area. And in order to fix this, we need, I personally believe we need an amendment that says two things. One, it takes away the ability to charge an income tax of any kind.
I agree.
At the county, city, state level, doesn't matter.
Absolutely agree, because how are you going to take away the state income tax and then my county decides to give me 6% income tax?
Right.
Yeah.
That
Right.
would suck. That was a conversation I had with Nancy the other day.
Yeah.
And then we can allow a local option, because I don't want to raise taxes. So we can allow a local option sales tax. But I would caveat that now, because the state doesn't have to redistribute wealth as much, because these counties are able to bring in revenues better, that the state then lowers its sales tax to provide more opening for the local counties and cities to be able to put in place. So
Great, I got to file sales tax reports for two entities, Kentucky and my county.
But then you don't have to pay, though, like a corporate tax either, though. You don't got to file your payroll taxes with the state or the
That's true.
county.
It's a
That's true.
it's a pass off, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
that's
a
true.
You're going to file the
handoff, right?
I use a payroll company anyway, just because I don't.
Yeah,
really
but you're still
care to say-
you're still doing 92, so it's
That's
still paying
safer.
it though.
I do not.
No, I mean, well, if you're gonna run for treasurer, I hope you'd have those matches. It's honestly, for the
I'm not
money
running
it
for
costs-
treasurer.
Yeah, for the money it costs me, it's so much easier. I pay $5 an employee a month.
Yeah. Well, it's a pass off of
It is.
liability.
It
Yeah.
is totally a pass off, and they give me all the HR tools I need. And anyway, that's a sidebar.
Yeah, honestly,
But,
they deal with the
Are they
state and all that
sponsoring the
stuff.
podcast?
Huh?
No, I was just
No,
about a year and a half for 'em.
Paid for by Sure Payroll. No, I'm just kidding. So okay, you kind of described day at the office. You kind of bypassed my question on cronies, but I'm just kidding. But I got you. You said you're going to pick a panel basically that's obviously a bipartisan, but focused on your same initiative. So
Focused on the initiative, but not political climbers that
That's
are
right.
going
Right.
to wonder about the politics of a situation,
It would
whether
be nice to
it's
have-
right or wrong.
It'd be nice to have 10 people in there that want to do the job.
Yeah.
And not
You-
just,
do you-
hey, how do I get the next
Do you
level?
remember the movie where the president looked like the president and then Dave?
Dave.
And the real president died and Dave was acting. And
Yeah.
Dave calls his friend who's the accountant. And
It's
he
his
shows
brother.
Up, yeah,
Yeah.
his brother. And he comes in, he says, here's how we're going to break the budget. And then he just comes in and does a budget meeting and then they're all pissed.
You remember his quote? His quote was, "If I ran my business like this, I'd be fired."
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm getting
We
this,
see a lot
I'm
of
getting
that.
the sense
Yeah.
that you're like Dave's brother and you're going to come in here and clean this up. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, you try to do what you can from the treasurer's office. You see the waste, you see the fraud, the abuse. You also see the constitutional violations, the legal violations. But then at the same time, it's going to come down to the citizens and the legislature also being willing to take that step forward of ensuring that, there's ramifications for when you misspend. There's ramifications for.
I mean, you're not going to
those
be
types
there.
of
You're not
actions.
going up there to be combative with the legislature, but you're trying to give them the tools and you're trying
to make a better
show
informed
them.
decision.
and
Somebody
so-
needs to at least ask questions.
Well, and this is
about what's
too
going on.
where you get into the realisticness of the politics of the situation. This is the difference between a principled person politicking and a principled person that doesn't have any concept of politics.
Yeah. Right.
Here's the difference. You ready? When we find these things, rather than just immediately creating an issue, go to the people executing them and say, what's going on here? Why is this going on?
Right.
Can we get it addressed now so that way it gets taken care of? It's kind of like a standing policy I have with my employees. Behind closed doors, they can say whatever they want to me. They can cuss me out, they can swear me out, everything else. Outside of those closed doors, though,
It's all business.
I don't, it's all business
It's
and
respect.
it's
It's-
straightforward.
right.
That's not going to deter me from doing the job. You see wasteful spending, it needs to be addressed. But if I'm actually trying to get it addressed, rather than trying to get in political hits and headlines, let's just try to get it addressed.
Let's work it out.
Yeah. I mean,
And I think that's the importance
Well,
of
we've
how you're going
recently
to work with
seen,
everything.
though, that politically a lot of people have been ejected because they did the same thing. But
Yeah.
I commend you because we need to hold our people accountable and stand too. So I got a question, and I don't want to cut Mark off.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna let him come back in, but your opposition running for this. All right, you're in a primary. So,
I'm in a primary.
So going in the primary, how is the opposition? Have they done this much work yet in their campaign to showcase? I mean, what is their plan? How does your plan stack up against their plan?
So what I think
I'm not trying to get you to badmouth the other candidate.
No,
but I mean,
or endorse them.
What are you saying that you're doing differently that the other candidate? I think it's great that you have this package. You're doing homework. You're presenting it to the people and saying this is what I'm going after. I haven't heard from your competition at all. I haven't seen a trace of your competition. Wouldn't even know the name of your competition.
Well, what I can tell you is in this race,
I do know, I do know the name, but I'm not.
I got you.
Go ahead.
In this race, I'm the only person who has actually managed a department the size of or larger than the treasurer's office. I'm the only person in conjunction with that has actually had the buck stop with them with a department of that size.
Right.
I mean, you don't want somebody who's never had to make hiring, firing, salary decisions, employment decisions, how to best budget an office, where the buck stops with them and they're doing that for the first time on taxpayer funds.
That's right. No, I agree.
I've managed hundreds of employees before in my budgets. I've managed companies where I'm doing 50 million or so in sales a year. The treasurer's office's budget is about 5 million or so a year, somewhere around there.
Yep.
Depends on how they're feeling. But the point is that we need people who've managed that size of something before, that have actually managed, simple things like getting to set somebody's pay rate.
So
I think that's incredibly important.
let me help our listeners put this in a different perspective.
Yeah.
Leaders don't fall off a tree. They're grown over time.
Right.
And so it takes a long time to get to a state where you can physically and mentally handle challenges, not only with employment, but with big decisions. And what I heard you just say is that comparatively, the person that is running against you would probably be learning all of that for the first time in the size and scope of that operation, whereas you are walking in with a level of expertise that your learning curve is already far beyond.
Yeah. So I've got two opponents. One opponent, based upon his history, I don't think has ever actually been the final say on hiring, firing, salary setting, how to set initiatives, how to budget a department. And my other opponent, I think the most amount of people he's done that for is 8, a department of 8. So and to your point, leaders aren't, just born. They have to grow. And you don't survive in small business, as you guys know, without knowing how to not only just manage people and funds, but also how to problem solve by not just throwing money at it.
We need problem solvers, not problem identifiers.
That is absolutely true.
That's why there's a Rubik's Cube over there. Throw me that thing, Mark. This is my key to the show. Problem solvers, not problem identifiers. I can really put that together.
But yeah, where you can look at a thing and say, look, these are means, these are tools. How do we solve this issue in front of us without just thinking, well, I just need to go ask for more money from the taxpayer. Well, I just need to go ask for more money from the legislature, or I just need a grant from somebody somewhere.
Right.
How do you make that work? So that type of problem solving is something you learn by being a business owner, by being there.
Absolutely.
It's not something you just happen across one day, or you can even learn in theory. You have to actually have that. And so I'm the only one there. There's a big problem facing pensions and investments right now with the whole ESG thing, the environmental and social governance. We need the thing about, and this goes into too as well, the treasurer's role of being a preventative role.
Right.
You've got to be ahead of the curve on these things. You got to recognize bad ideas, bad premises, bad things being pushed forward, bad behavior by companies before it becomes a politically popular thing to deal with, because you're in that preventative role.
Yeah.
And by the time it becomes well-known and popular to deal with it by people,
right,
it's already happened. It's almost out of the treasurer's purview. Take ESG for an example.
Oh, get me fired up about ESG.
Well, take ESG right now, right? This is the fact of the matter. ESG's been going on since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
It was first thought up, as best as I can trace, to the Davos meeting in 2019. Is when they first started really pushing this out.
I strongly believe that Afghanistan withdrawal has a lot to do with resourcing those individual companies that are being. I can go into this for a long time. It is disgusting what ESG is doing to us and the people that are just hand over fisting money at the sacrifice of our country, our states,
Our values.
It's all of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
I'm feeling like Red Dawn's about to drop on us.
the thing is that I'm with you. I mean, that's
we're
China
only
stuff.
one Taiwan away from an actual global disaster because we will be so. Anyway, I can't even. Keep going. I'm sorry. Go.
My point is that so 2019 it comes out. The proper time to divest from these ESG companies would have been late 2020, early 2021. We had high rates.
Yep.
It was a good time to sell off. The problem is a lot of these stocks have dropped off. And anybody knows who manages money will tell you, don't realize a loss until you sell the stock.
That's right.
And the problem is divesting ourselves, our pensions completely from ESG right now at the drop of the hat, we're going to get hosed. We're going to lose money.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And so why were we not selling this off in 2020, 2021?
Because there were policies that were driving it the other way because they were trying to force the money into those stocks.
Right, but this is where the treasurer's got to be.
Artificially, they're not money growth stocks. They're
I'm feeling like we need to follow the money here and take it all the way to the national level, but I'm not going there. But anyway,
so
go ahead.
let's do this. Go ahead, finish up your thought.
So staying ahead of it, and so I bring this up to talk about my competition because, quite frankly, over the last several years, there's me who has been fighting on these issues very publicly. People can Google my name; they'll find article after article after article over the last 3 years where I've either been leading protests or different demonstrations, working on legislation, pushing that forward, petitions, whatever you want to call it. And then working. And then we have my other two opponents. One, I don't think, if I have to be honest, he's a bit older. He's talking about it in his campaign a little bit now. I don't know if he fully understands it all or recognizes it all. I think it's a generational thing where I'm more involved with, I can see these things coming. I'm more a part of the culture. I think that foresight's important. And then my other opponent, who is close to me in age, has been working for the other side for the last 3 years, hosting diversity, equity, and inclusion summits. The last one 2 weeks before he declared for office. I mean, owning a diversity consulting company, management consulting company that consults on diversity and equity in the workplace. I mean, that is ESG.
Yeah, that's getting paid for that.
Right. And then sitting on the board of an ESG bank, Fifth Third Bank, the world renowned for being an ESG bank, sitting on the board of that, getting money from them now in the campaign. So, when you're looking at those issues, it's like there is, to your point, we are teetering right here.
Yeah.
And we need people that realize it, that haven't been fighting for the other side for the last 3 years and now are just pretending to be conservative because they want to get elected, and people who have a track record of standing up on these things way before it was politically even popular, way before people were even talking about it.
So shout out, tell everybody your name, where to go, website, donate, all that stuff.
Sure. So Andrew Cooperider, running for state treasurer. You can go to andrew4ky.com. That's the number 4, Andrew, the number 4ky.com.
Look right there at the camera and let them know.
Andrew, the number 4ky.com. That's my campaign website. If you want to donate, you can go to the number 4ky.com. C4ky.com. That takes you right to my donate.
Because he's going to blow it up, y'all. C4. I'm just kidding. That's my joke. I just came out. That's the military in me. I'm just kidding. Nice. C4, he's going to blow it up.
And then it may vote for me. Andrew Cooperider, state treasurer. Tell others to as well.
All right. Well, Andrew, thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to just talk about a couple of things as we get ready to sign off. And if I can find
there you go,
our music here. So there we go. So, hey guys, thank you all for listening tonight. Forgive me for
and he's not the Andrew Cooper on CNN either.
Andrew Cooperider.
I know.
It's Andrew Cooperider.
I know.
So thank you all for listening tonight. Forgive me for some of my jittery moves and around trying to switch cameras and things as I learn the system here. But one thing I want to make sure we remind you all, we have the April 25th. We're going to have our Lincoln Day dinner. That's a Tuesday. That's at Robert's Family Farm. It's going to start at 6 o'clock. And Andrew's will have somebody there to speaking on his behalf, as well as many other candidates and their surrogates will be there to speak with us and tell us what's going on. So thank you all for coming out. Don't forget, we're going to get May is the primary. I think it's is it May 20th?
We're less than 30 days.
Yeah, we're less than 30 days away.
No, not quite.
Oh,
2 days till 30 days.
oh yeah, thank you. So yeah, we're
would know
almost there.
best.
Yeah,
He
we're
would know
almost
best.
there. So
And it goes so fast.
but we need you guys to get out and vote. That's the most important thing. We usually have very low turnout rates for primaries. Let's make this an exception.
Oh, it's got to be. And next Thursday, Mark, you got Susan Masterson. She's going to tell us where the voting
That's
polls
right.
are. And did you know she's opening up a whole new voting spot?
Yeah, it's going to be over at the middle school.
That's right.
It's going to be over at the Stuart Pepper Middle School. I know that because my wife works over at that one.
Yeah, so she's going to, a lot of information to come out next week. Stay tuned with Mark. He's going to run the show next week with Susan. I'll be
do
off.
the best I can.
You're going to do great.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for listening, and we will get with you guys next week. And stay tuned. Good night.
Good night.